waste. Terrible thing to waste.
If there's too many white people, I get nervous.
No. No. No, 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 no.
A bomb is a terrible thing to waste.
So we have myself, Kay, and
Rhea Ban.
Ray.
It's pronounced Ray. It's Rhea, but it's actually Rhea Ban. Ray is my middle name.
All right, and I go by Kay, and that's my middle name is LaKae, but you can call me Kay for purposes of today. So I think we came together today so that we can essentially go over the movie that came out this weekend. Get Out, produced and directed by Jordan Peele. And who was it starring?
Daniel Kaluuya. I don't want to butcher the brother's name, but it's
Okay, so him. Y'all saw the movie.
Chris. But for the purpose of this video, his name is Chris.
Right. So as you guys already know, I'm sure there's been a bunch of chatter about this movie, mostly in favor. It had a great rating on one of the top review sites. So I myself actually didn't think I was gonna go see it, but actually Rhea Ban let me know hey, you have to go and see this. It's more than what you think. Just go see it. You have to. So I did, and he did twice. Right? He went and saw it twice, and so we feel like a lot of you watched it, had a lot of strong feelings. We definitely do too. So we came here today to just basically talk about it, and hopefully you guys will chime in and let us know what you think. Okay? So we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll basically just run through the movie and kind of just give our input and go from there.
Okay. Well, I'm sure everybody, the first thing that everybody will probably look at, in the very beginning of the movie, you have the brother Andrew, who also starred in the show ATL. He's walking through a suburban area and he gets snatched up. And, they break from that scene and go into the song Stay Woke, which is kind of a pivotal moment in a sense to where it's actually putting you in a state of mind of what this movie is going to be about.
Shout out to Childish Gambino, Redbone.
One of my favorite songs, definitely. And basically, from there, we can actually touch on what the general theme of the movie is, if you want to. Basically, what I captured from it, and what many of you probably saw in the post, basically the benevolent nature of the system of white supremacy that we live in. And I don't know if you want to kind of touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, I will say for sure, before we dig into it, I was surprised, as most of you probably were. I thought I was about to see a horror movie, which I guess you could call it a horror movie. But it surprised me, and I was really, proud of Jordan, of his such in your face, I guess, way of him portraying this movie to us through art. And like you said, touching on white supremacy, things that we still deal with today, but giving us something to think about in each and every scene. So as you said, we start off with him being kidnapped in suburbia, and then incapacitated, taken, and we're just okay, what happened? Where did he go?
Right.
And then we see, I think it goes right to the main character and his girlfriend packing for the trip, right? Chris and Rose.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess you want to touch on what's happening.
And basically, from the very beginning, and I think most brothers would probably relate in that moment, is asking her, have you told the parents?
Yeah.
Because whenever we meet people, you don't never know what's on somebody's mind. Well, sorry if you guys we're a little bit distracted. We got a lot of stuff going on.
Going on around us. We focus on y'all. We promise. We promise.
But basically, what you see is basically what we all probably would feel in that moment is that you never know how someone's parents will react to you. Right. Never mind the person that you're dating, but just how people grew up is not always apparent from the surface.
Right.
So,
especially as a black man, we're not going to sweep that under the rug. As a black man with the precious, protected white woman. So although it's accepted for a lot of people, it's still in our minds is this okay? is it all right? Are they gonna accept me? So I thought that was like really great how they, touched on that. And that oblivion that she had, like, was I supposed to tell you them you're my black boyfriend?
Yeah,
I think the entire theater right. And then the entire theater's like, yeah, like like duh.
Even the whole like my parents voted for Obama. Like,
right.
We all hear this all the time. It's nothing new. So
right.
But I mean, we can jump into the what exactly people gather from the post that I posted up. Thank you to everybody who shared it, commented, liked the picture. It definitely,
lots of love was
it came. It definitely came. It came on a few people's pages I didn't expect. So it was cool. It's definitely appreciate the love and respect everybody for their feedback from both sides. People who disagree with my concepts and people who agree. Definitely appreciate just chiming in and continue to chime in when we post this video. Feel free to give us feedback. Feel free to tell us what it is that you think, because these are just ideas that I gathered from watching the film. Well researched, but they're just ideas.
Right, and these opinions are our own, we stand by them, but it doesn't reflect anything else but our own experiences and point of view. So, to jump back into the movie, so we see them packing, she kind of brushes off the whole, no, I didn't tell them, but okay, we're going anyway. And he's kind of hesitant, but he goes. So fast forward, they're on this back road somewhere headed to go see her parents. And, you can tell he's just in admiration of her, and it's just like this perfect moment. And then out of nowhere, he hits a deer, right?
Right.
And then I think that's when things just kind of start to roll into motion. And I think for me, I was like, well, this is random. Like, why did he hit the deer? Like, what's happening here? But I think you had a few thoughts about, like, maybe why that was put into it.
Right. So. Basically, and we don't find this out until later in the movie. And probably if you didn't watch the film twice, you probably didn't catch it the first time through. You had to probably, watch it back or have somebody else mention it, and it'll kind of connect the 2 points. But basically, Chris's mother is killed in the same fashion as the deer was.
Right.
And, it didn't really harp on it too long, but basically he's in that state of trauma that, in that moment, because he's reliving the trauma that he had as a child. And, it definitely, on the surface, yes, it's just a basic level, just a basic scene where you just have somebody showing, what's, foreshadowing events later. But also you're looking at something that's symbolic to what we go through as well when we see people on our timeline on Facebook get killed. And we're sitting in that trauma, in that state of trauma, and we have to relive it, and then we also have to be able to snap out of it at any moment and be able to relive our lives, live our lives in a normal way,
right.
As if it doesn't affect us.
Right.
And we never get a chance to go through any level of therapy for these events. A lot of these stuff we just sweep under the rug and try to keep moving on, but
self-medicate.
Yeah, self-medicate. So that was a good part, and just a small symbolic thing, but something that I did like.
We still didn't know what was coming, but yeah, he set up the story like really well, because it's like, okay, this is, it scared me. I know I jumped. I don't know if you guys did, but it was like, okay, so it's happening. And then of course the scene where the cop, who we're thinking is just a random guy, comes, and of course we're used to DWB, and for those of you who may not be the B in DWB, what we refer to that is driving while black. And I know, especially for black men, I'm sure you can attest to that, but just as a black people, black men and women, when we get pulled over, it's an immediate, dumb myself down, be, non-aggressive, just be completely compliant. Like, even if you weren't speeding, nothing's wrong, like, it's just automatic. It's what we shift into. But of course, you have his girlfriend who, that's not going to happen. You're going to be questioned. You're going to maybe even, challenge that authoritative figure, which was shown here. And he saw it as like, oh, look at my girl looking out for me. Like, she's really, she's down for me. Like, oh, I got a winner,
right.
And as we know, it was just a part of the setup. So it was a moment I think we can all relate to, like that moment when it's like, okay, let's just comply. So unfortunately, the reality is we have to think about, let me get out alive.
Right.
For her, it's you're interrupting my plans, we have to go. So it's just two different mentalities, and I was really, happy that he again touched on something that we all can relate to. So they progress, and then get to the home, and the parents are like surprisingly welcoming. Like it was just like, hey, how are you? Like, you know, it was just like, okay, we're happy that they aren't making him feel awkward, but this is strange. Because even just as the first time you're coming to meet the parents, you know, it's gonna be like, at least the father's gonna give you, you know, like, you know, just the awkward, just trying to do that machismo type thing for you, but none of that happens. So it's like, okay, this is awkward. And, you know, they come into the house, and I guess I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what this whole setup is about, they're setting up the they're setting up the scene, I know, right? They're setting up the scene for basically to set up how the families operate. So you have a non-stereotypical white supremacist family where you have white liberals playing the part. And I thought it was brilliant that he did it that way, because in a lot of ways we don't look at the level of, you know, we look at racism as more aggressive and more physical, in your face.
Yes.
There has to be hatred, and
right.
There is a level of hatred, but there has to be a level of vitriol that we see on the surface in order for people to exhibit those type of qualities. But in actuality, there is an intellectual class of racism that goes on with a lot of liberals, and you know, it's not so much as they feel. A lot of it is like cultural appropriation, which is a point in this movie. That's part of the point of the body snatching whole thing. They want to be like us, but don't want to be us. These are things that we've heard.
And it was a literal body snatch, right? That was crazy.
So, I mean, even the grandfather who, I didn't catch it until the second time we watched it. The grandfather is running in the black body. He's running towards Chris, and you don't really catch and understand why he's running, but the reason why is he's reliving that Jesse Owens moment where he couldn't beat Jesse Owens.
Wow, so now, I didn't even catch that.
So now he has his black body, and he's still, like his father said, like his son says, who plays the girl's father, he never quite got over it. He almost got over it.
Right, Dean, her father,
right.
Exactly. So as he said, you know, they came and it was like they showed us the dynamic, and I think they also were so welcoming to kind of like disarm him, because they know our expectations. They unfortunately think that we're coming on ready, if that makes sense. So they're probably like, okay, let's just, you know, play this role that we know disarms him and kind of lets him, you know, let his guard down. And then they proceed to the scene that he just mentioned, where he's like, you know, they're wanting to relax and, you know, just unwind, and they're just really adamant about doing the tour. And I was like, well, why is he going to show the house so bad? Like, it's not that great. And then you realize he wanted to bring him to that moment. Like, this is my father. This is what happened, and you know, we learned further along. Like, I interpreted that that moment. He mentioned the loss to Jesse to let him know that he was aware of us as a people, our historic and cultural dominance. Like, I'm putting you on notice. I know, but he also is putting him on notice that I still have that vengeance. I still have to avenge my father. Now, he didn't see the depth of that. He just saw like, okay, that's cool. We holding on to the past, but all right, you know. So again, he's assuming the best. He's not seeing what it is, but it's literally right in his face what's happening. And I think that spoke to kind of how we handle situations often. Like, things can be right in our face. Like, I'm telling you why I'm here. I'm telling you what I'm gonna do. But because we're trying to assume, oh, that's not what's happening, we oftentimes miss it and end up in situations we don't want to be in because we miss the signs. I.e., what happens in this movie. So, what happened after that?
And also, just because another part that people didn't really catch is he's constantly, and this family is constantly talking about our culture. He talks about he loves culture, you know, oh, he's traveling, he's just collecting culture. It kind of speaks to a lot of the things that I think, and this is in no part her ideology.
It's all right, man. Great, man.
But it speaks to, like, if you really think about it, there's no such thing as white culture. Their culture, there's really no culture when it comes to the way that they live. I would attribute most of what they would call their culture a lot of, you know, a culmination of things. They really don't have like an original historic culture, so, or ancient civilization that they can draw from. So a lot of them, they will just collect cultures. And this is a cultural appropriation, another major theme in the movie. So, and actually Jordan Peele talks about this in an interview, I wish I had the interview. I can drop the link in the page. He basically just talks about the connection of why he made this film. He mentioned Rosemary's Baby, one of the films that inspired it. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is a Sidney Poitier movie, which helped inspire it. And all of these films, they deal with some level of deception. And that's a common tactic in order to get people to basically do the will of the person who's manipulating other people. So, I mean, that's just one of the minor things.
Yes, it gets deep, y'all. And if you want, you can like go on his IG page. I'm sure he's gonna drop that in the link. Like, you can follow him because he can tell you a whole lot more than I can.
I mean, it's too much to really put it.
Yeah, we can't put it all in this video.
I can't put it all in one video.
But
there may be a part 3. There may be a part 3.
Right.
Part 2, basically, a lot of people just wanted me to touch on other things because I think everybody pretty much saw the first post.
Right. So this does give you more meat. Right.
So I'm trying to give you some different points that I caught. I'm not sure if you had, anything that you wanted to talk about as far or any questions that you had, but I know what people want to know now.
Okay, so we're gonna keep it moving. So we fast forward a little bit, and they notice that Chris is a smoker. His mom mentions that she's a psychiatrist, psychologist. Don't misquote me, but essentially we know what she does. Psychiatrist, thank you. So she's just very adamant about, I can help you. Like, she used that as an in to, put him again in a compromising position where she can do what she knew she was capable of doing. And if he would have followed his right line, again, we get the signs, we just don't go with them. And he was like, no. And, we know he ends up in the room, and, what happens with that. And I felt like there were so many layers to that. Like, what she was doing, what he was doing, just the way it was shot. Like, shout out to Jordan Peele again, because everything that you saw within a frame had a meaning. Right. Like, everything spoke to something else. And there was the teacup that she always had. And at first you could miss it because it's a very subtle stir. Like, okay. But then they force you to zone in on it, like after like the third time, they zoom in. So you're like, what is it with this teacup? And I know you had some thoughts about, the teacup and its symbolism. So what did you think that was about?
And everybody pretty much, because that was the one thing a lot of people talked about. But the teacup is just basically, we call it tea, is slang that we
The tea. Right.
That basically distracts us from what's going on. So, the tea is used to hypnotize us or put us to sleep or get us to not focus on the things that are happening behind the scenes. So, and also it puts us to sleep like in the sunken place.
Right.
That they describe in the movie.
And that sunken place could mean so many things,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. But also, I just want to, because I know this is a part that we probably missed, but I just want to go back to the fact that he used the song Stay Woke. And throughout the movie, and I love that about this movie, he never questions himself about what he's feeling. Or he never, he's not confused about race at all. Chris. Okay. He's never confused about race in this movie. So even though the TSA agent is basically his black conscience and him calling him to wake him back up to what he knows is he's feeling, but he's kind of put off. But basically in this whole movie, and actually Jordan Peele speaks to this in an interview with hiphopdx.com, he basically talks about he wanted to create a horror film where a black person isn't playing dumb throughout the movie. He's fully awake. He actually says it, so it's not conjecture, it's not my beliefs. He's actually creating a character who most black people will relate to and say, in most of our situations, we're gonna keep our eyes open. And at no point in the movie is he, except for a few points in the movie where we're gonna get to, because I really want to get to this. But for the most part in the film, he never really lets his guard down except when he's around other black people that he perceives at first, but when he sees that they don't show the same, I guess you can say,
that familiarity.
Yeah,
like when he tries to give the broad handshake and he grabbed his fist with his head. That was like the ultimate.
But these are things that we feel when we see black people in corporate America. Like these, and not to get on those because, you know, it's
Not
not
everybody.
all. Yeah, not everybody. There are very people like who I respect, like Byron Allen, who's woke, fully woke. Brothers worth like 400 million. You got brothers like Jay-Z, who's doing big things, and behind the scenes, he does a lot. So, you know, it's not necessarily that, but I would say more so people who don't relate to the culture, who just wear the black skin.
So he spoke about like he would only let his guard down to kind of give that like, whew, why am I not by myself when he saw the other people.
Right.
So I think the first time that we see, I believe his name was Walter. Yes, Walter. So he first drives in with his girlfriend, and Walter's like dumbfounded, like looking at him driving in the car, and he's like, okay, that's weird. Like, you should be like, what's up? But you're looking at me like, why are you here? And then we see him, I guess when they're at the gathering, we see the guy who was, you know, body snatched at the beginning, and he's like, you can see him literally beelining because he's getting pulled left and right by like people who are
spinning.
here.
I didn't catch it the first time. He's spinning, trying to show.
All right, so they're outside and they're behind the house, and you know they're gathered around, and Chris is kind of trying to like slowly escape out, and all of a sudden the Asian guy, I apologize, I don't know what his name was, but the Asian guy asked
The Asian brother
asked him like, you know, Chris, do you feel like you have an advantage to, you know, being black in, you know, this day and time? And he was kind of thrown off by it, and he actually like kind of shot it to Alexander, what's his name?
Yeah,
Alex,
that's when
yeah, and then there was like the flash scene, which I thought was so symbolic because the flash to me represented like seeing the light. Like he went out of this like vegetative state, and like a little glimpse of him saw the light and literally trying to fight for his life and get out of it. But of course, you know what happened with that. But I thought it was like strange how the Asian guy, out of the entire group, the Asian guy asked that like sensitive question. Why do you think that was?
So this is funny to me because I don't think anybody really caught this part of the film, and I think it was done in very passive way, but it's really something that's interesting that a lot of people don't really know about or really touch on. I haven't seen it touched on at all. So, you know, what people don't understand is that in the Nazi Party back in 1945, Hitler actually said in an excerpt of his speech, he stated that Chinese and Japanese culture was not only equal, but actually superior to their own.
Wow.
So it's not that Asian people are ever looked at as different from white people in that party. Now you have certain sections, you have different, and people don't understand there's different sections, there's different segments and beliefs all within white supremacy. You have white extremists who believe in white purity and their gene pool is pure. You have white people and you have white liberals who don't really look at it as a superiority thing. They think that they're helping us. They're helping to civilize us.
Let us save you.
Yeah, they're trying to save us.
Right.
So, but I thought it was interesting that he threw the Asian thing because that's not a thing that a lot of people really know about. In the alt-right movement, they have a concept called a HAPA, or a Hapa Hali, which is a Hawaiian term that means half white, half Asian. So they have this concept that to mix with Asian people will create a even more superior breed of people because they look at that civilization as superior to their own, which is kind of ironic because the ancient Asians were actually majority black, but that's
for later.
that's neither here nor there. So really, there's really no logic behind white supremacy. So it doesn't even really matter. But I thought it was interesting that he added that point. And also, people don't know, like you know, Richard Spencer, who is actually affiliated with Trump, who's basically a stated white nationalist. He'll tell you he's a white nationalist. He actually had a bunch of Asian white girlfriends throughout his whole life. You have people like Jared Taylor, who's the founder and editor of American Renaissance magazine. You have and what's the other guy? I'm trying to think of
Who put it in the link?
William Johnson, who's the leader of the American Freedom Party.
William Johnson.
Yeah, they both speak fluent Japanese.
Wow.
They have an affinity with Asian culture. So I just thought it was funny that they threw that part in there kind of passively. A lot of people didn't catch it, but even the Asian guy, we're going to talk about the auction, but the Asian guy even participated in the auction. So we have this thing where throughout our country, in America, when Asian people come over here, they're indoctrinated with the same beliefs. And that's why you have people, the Asian stores and the whole thing where Asian people post up in the hood and they have a certain bias against us, or they look at us with the same suspicious eye as a lot of white supremacists do. So,
wow, see, that's interesting because I, not having known what you just enlightened us about, I thought like he was a token minority. Like, hey, see, it's not just all of us white people. There's another minority there.
Did they tell you I was deep?
Right, it's levels to this. But essentially, that kind of blew my mind. But that's what I thought was happening. So that was before the auction, right?
Right.
Then they have the silent auction. And at first, he's like, let's play bingo. And I'm like, you got to play bingo? Okay. And then we realized bingo is code for the auction. The auction happens, and we actually see before the auction, the guy who won the auction, he was like an art dealer, and he spoke to him previous to when he seemed to have like a liking to him. He kind of became comfortable, like, oh my God, you've seen my work. Like, it was almost, I think, like a small bit of acceptance, him saying that he had seen his work and him talking about his ailment with his eyes. So then he appealed to his sympathies. It was the ultimate setup, right?
That's brilliant, actually. I didn't even see. Y'all follow her, K for you. I didn't even think about that at the time, but yeah, there was a certain sense of you can tell like he was, man, okay, well I got one that really accepts me.
Right.
Like, there's one, so he felt good about it. But you have to, again, I touched on it a little bit earlier, how he really only let his guard down when he was speaking with black people, but the only other person really that he let his guard down in the movie was the art dealer.
Jim Hudson, right?
Jim Hudson, one of my favorite characters from The Office. Y'all remember the movie The Office? The dude who burned down the building, but basically he was the most endearing at the party. He was, he admired Chris the most.
He was his safe space almost.
Right, and he ended up being his potential demise. So I think it speaks to something where we let our guards down.
Stay woke.
Yeah, stay woke.
Stay woke.
You let your guard down with the people, usually the people who give you the most. And you look at people like Donald Sterling, like he's always talking about how, in the tapes he was talking about how, oh, I give them all these cars and luxury. I treat them so good. I treat my slaves good.
I'm saving you.
Yeah, I'm saving you. Like, you have to understand that just because somebody does good to you doesn't mean that they want good for you.
Right.
They have their own ulterior motives when they're dealing with you.
Right.
They have their own agenda. So this is one of the things that we deal with. And actually, I actually have some other notes in here. I know
we
y'all
put in
like
effort. We want y'all to know what we know.
So, I mean, and one of the biggest points where I want people to understand also, in The Blind Guy kind of deals with it, even when he was doing the brainwashing at the bottom. I know I'm jumping ahead.
Oh, you're fine.
But he talks about, he doesn't care about race. It's his purpose, he cares nothing about the color of Chris's skin. He wants what he doesn't have. And what you have to understand is, in the system of white supremacy, the people who participate don't always have these extreme beliefs. They may not think that you're inferior.
Right.
But they see the system set up how it is. They're going to use it to their advantage.
Right.
So he wants what he wants. He sees somebody that he can get it from.
Right. It's an avenue.
Yeah, it's an avenue to get what you want. So
right.
he actually, he doesn't so-called believe in this theory, but he participated.
He was there.
He was there.
Right.
So that was just one of the biggest things that I thought could be learned from the film.
Right. There's so many lessons in this film. Like, I wish we could touch on them all, but that was like major for me. So the auction happens, and then, fast forward, and he's telling Rose, like, I gotta go. Like, we have to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. These people are crazy. I've given y'all 1,000 passes.
He should have said that a lot earlier.
Right? Like, he should have said that a long time ago. So, fast forward, he's attempting to go. He tells Rose, like, okay, no more stalling. Get the keys. Let's go. Then they have this scene on the stairs. He thinks he's about to go, and at the bottom of the stairs, we have Rose. She's fumbling. She's been fumbling for these keys for like 20 minutes now, and now he's starting to become woke. Like, he's looking around him. So he sees the brother. What's that badminton? Whatever he kept carrying around the house, which we know can be used as a weapon, and it was a constant reminder subconsciously that I can attack you. That's how I thought of it. And then he realizes like he's been very even-tempered the whole movie. He hasn't raised his voice, hasn't been that aggressive black man that they stereotypically think of us as, but he like yells. He's like, okay, I see what's happening. Like I gotta come up, out of this and, try and save myself. And then that's when, the scene where he basically has to like fight for his life. It looks like he's losing, and he wakes up down in, I guess, their dungeon makeshift, lab. And I guess I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so he's tied up to the chair, and they show the scene where, and I spoke about it in the post, and he's showing the big buck that's
anchored to the wall.
Yeah, anchored right on top of the wall. It's part of the programming, and he's staring at this buck, and you have these two orbital lamps placed almost diametrically, how you would see the male phallus in most symbols. And I thought that was interesting. Also, it's kind of symbolic of buck breaking concept that they had in slavery, where you would break they called it buck breaking or breaking a buck, and they would actually, violently attack. They sometimes just beating, but most of the time it was sodomizing the strongest male in front of the whole group of slaves. So just another interesting thing that I saw in the movie. And also when he's scratching away at the chair, he ends up picking cotton. So ironically that ended up saving his life. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Right. The very thing that sometimes you do to us, we can use it to our, to our own strength. In
that same breath, when he actually escapes, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when he actually escapes, he grabs a ball and hits the guy over the head. Now, you can take that many ways, but I kind of took it as, we use basketball or sports to kind of escape from white supremacy in a sense, or escape the constraints of that. So I thought that was interesting. Well, he grabbed the ball out of all things to bash the guy over the head. But I may be reaching. I doubt it.
I don't think Yeah, so I guess before we wrap this thing up, so we all know what happens. And actually, I'm sorry, we failed to mention Rod. I mean, we mentioned him lightly, but the TSA agent who was hilarious throughout the movie.
Man, shout out to that, bro.
On the Carmichael show, like he's great. But I love how
what show is he on?
The Carmichael show.
What show is that?
Stay woke, crazy. He'll Google it and he'll watch it on demand.
Hey,
so
is it what show? Nah, is it because I think he's from the UK, right?
I'm not sure where he's from. I think he's been doing comedy, like stand up for a long time, but I just know I can't love his humor on the show.
Shit, I love every scene he was in.
Right, and he was like, I think we discussed, he was like the black conscious, and he was always saying what we were thinking. Like literally before he went on the trip, he was like, bruh, don't do it, just say what you want. And then essentially at the end, he ends up being his savior. You know, like he comes for him, and I think that spoke to me, like, we got to save ourselves. We got to look out for ourselves. Even if I'm not in my right mind as my brother, my sister, my community, we have to save ourselves. And that just spoke volumes to me. And I just love the character that he had. Like, and I love how it was a contrast. Like, Chris was very, like, meek and just, tender and, like, oh, no, it's fine. You're fine. And Rob was like the complete opposite, like, no, that's not what we're about. Like, they coming for you, don't do it, bro. Like, he was his conscience. So I love that part of me.
Right. And also, where the maid jumps out in front of the car, we find out later that that's his that's what's her name's grandmother.
Rose's grandmother.
Exactly. But also you can look at it on the surface level and just look at it like, how we view a lot of people. Not a lot, but too many in our community who will jump out and try to save the white supremacists in a lot of cases, or they've been indoctrinated so much they can't be saved. So it's also speaking to, you can't always save everybody.
Right, and I think when he went with Rod, the best friend, he went to the police station, remember that? And he was speaking to, I believe it was 3
black cops.
Right, Detective LaToya, Drake, and Garcia. It was a funny scene, but she's like, y'all gotta hear this. Like, this can't happen. Come hear this crazy story. And I think that speaks to those of us that aren't woke. You think they look like us, they think like us, etc. But they're gonna think that whatever is
part of the system.
Right, even subconsciously, just because they aren't aware of the things that you're aware of. So I thought that was a great representation also. So all in all, I think it was a great film. Like the way he was able to fit so much into this film, and just there were so many layers. We could dissect this for hours, but we don't want to take up too much of your time. I just thought it was amazing. Rhea Ban had the post that he did, which kind of, for those of you who didn't see it, that's what kind of like sparked this whole thing. He did a great post on Facebook. I'm sure it's still there. People just wanted to know more about how he felt. That's the purpose of this video. We just want to kind of, expound upon some of those ideas and like thoughts that we had about the movie. And I hope that you guys like love this video, and that if you agree, comment. If you just don't agree with what we said, tell us how you feel, because we want to know like what was your interpretation of what we saw. Because as you can see, some of the things he saw, I didn't even like pick up on, and I think vice versa. So yeah. So anything else you want to tell people?
I mean, just follow us. The profiles will be in the description box.
Yes.
We will be, actually I have a Medium platform that I'm working on. BAKTalk is the name of it.
BAKTalk, no C.
No C. Soon about a podcast. I'm going to be updating you guys on what's going on. There's definitely be more videos, and expect more of Kay. I know she does a little background work, but all the fellas, her information going to be in the description box. You dig? I'm going to tag her in the video. Y'all go ahead and shoot your shot.
Oh my God.
And
He
she
didn't
did a
tell me he
great
was
job.
going to do this shot.
Yeah. You did a great job, though. You did a great job today. It felt like an interview, Breakfast Club.
All right. Go ahead and speak that thing. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Hopefully I will come back to you guys. And like I said, just tell us how you feel. Share a comment. Just let us know what you think. And stay woke.
Stay woke.